Okay, so when I was like 3 years old, literally 3 years old, it was my third birthday party. My mom was a cake decorator, and our house was kind of big. Well, not big, but I mean, I was three, so everything seemed gigantic. Um, and the table was like one of those ones that you have like the high chairs to sit on, like bar stool kind of chairs. So it seemed even higher to me. And the cake that my mom made was a 3-tier circus cake. It had like the ringmaster on top with like a lion, and then on the second tier, it had a moving carousel kind of thing going on. And then on the bottom tier, it had like elephants and stuff like that. And I still remember being like this 3-year-old kid standing on the floor looking up at this cake that just seemed to go on forever. It's one of the memories that sticks out to me a lot because I got to see so many different cool kinds of cakes from my mom since she was a cake decorator. But that one always was like above and beyond the one that stuck out the most to me. Just because it seemed like it went on forever, I think. Because being that small and seeing something that, like, the cake itself, even if it were on the floor, it was like almost as tall as I was. Yeah, she did like all kinds of stuff. We grew up on a farm. My mom knew how to make everything from scratch. She knew how to like defeather a chicken and cook all that down and all that stuff. Like basically anything that you would need to know in farm life, we knew how to do. And she did all kinds of different baking and things like that. Like Christmas is always crazy. Like our entire kitchen is covered in cookies, all different kinds. Like she started toning it down in the past few years just because it gets overwhelming, and she's starting to get a bit older and there aren't as many kids around. I'm the youngest of 10, so like everyone's kind of already moved out, got their families and everything, and the only ones that are around are me and my sister and her kids. And everyone else pretty much is off on their own. My mom was like one of the most supportive people you could ever imagine. Like anything I wanted to do, it was just kind of like, okay. My dad was 65 when I was born, and he had cancer, so he knew he wasn't going to be around for a whole lot of time. So he kind of treated me like a trophy. Whenever I was little, he would carry me around on his shoulders, and anytime people would ask, like, if I was his grandkid, he'd be like, no, that's my kid. And I corrected people all the time too, because I learned it from watching him correct people. My dad was strict. He had his rules. He very much believed, he was very much a parent from another era. He was what you would imagine your parents' would have been like had they raised you. He was born in 1925, so like he had like the older mentality going on of hard work is the only thing that really matters. I mean, everyone respected him. He was a jack of all trades, master of all. Like, he was a police officer, he was a school teacher, he owned and operated a coin shop, he had a auto shop, he was district governor of the Lions Club twice, he was charter president of international pin trading through the Lions, opened up his own nursing home because his mother's friends didn't have places to live, so he built his own nursing home just so that they would have a place to go, and did it from the ground up himself. Like, he was a contractor. He built most of the houses on the road that we live on. Like, he just did everything. He was a literal pillar of the community in the area that I live in. So, he's a hard name to live up to. Stepdad, he's a whole different kind of person. He was a DJ at one point, and he has all this music on CDs and listens to tons of like classic rock and things like that. Like, my dad's idea of a good night was to sit down and read a book. My stepdad's idea of a good night is to sit down and blast music until he goes deaf. He's clearly has a lot of issues that have been coming up with like later and later generations as far as communication goes. And it's evident with every generation that moves on now. Things just get like communication just breaks down little by little. It's sad. And it's very easy for me to see because my parents, my mom, my dad, and my stepdad are all three very different generations. My original dad's generation was very much like to the point. They would get out what they needed to get out. Everything was said when it needed to be said, as it needed to be said. Like, just there was no lack of communication. So much so that it was like blunt to a point to a lot of people. And sometimes they thought it was over the top. But it was just that era. Then moving on to my mom's, things got a bit more lax with communication. Not a whole lot, but it was more of like a need to know kind of situation. And then my stepdad, you would get told things, but not everything. So like you might get told, go clean your room, but you would never get a reason, or go do this, but you never get like why you need to do it. It was kind of aggravating when I was younger, but looking back, I can see like everything that my stepdad did that aggravated me then helped to build character for later on, and it was with my best interests in mind, whether or not I thought it was at the time. And he's, again, been a very supportive person in his own way. Try to keep an open mind. Everyone has a reason for what they do. Whether or not you fully understand what it is, taking a second to step back before you start telling someone that they're wrong about something, and trying to gain perspective into why they might have done it, can really open up a lot of doors into new paths that you may have never even considered.